All this stuff going on in the world, stressful time of year. I saw my first Christmas commercial the other day. Can you believe that? Halloween candy, got to take care of that. And here we are recording another episode. And you know what? All the stuff going on in the world gets you beat down. For me, recording with you bitches makes it worse.
Just gonna go ahead and drop the B bomb right off the top, huh?
Yeah, man, because we always get to it anyway. People always like, when are they finally going to say it?
Dude, I haven't said a bad word, and I can't remember the last time I said a bad word on an episode, and we're not even 1 minute in, and Luke's already getting us shadow banned on YouTube.
I don't think that's a bad word. We got shadow banned last time because we're talking about climate change.
Oh, yeah, what was the deal with that? What was that for the folks that weren't on YouTube or whatever? What was the caveat at the bottom or the banner or whatever?
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, Luke will pull it up. Basically, we got to talk. Yeah, we got to talking about climate change. I don't know how we got on that subject, but we were just talking a little bit about it. Like, is the climate changing? Yeah, the climate's changing, but is it man-made? Right? Is it caused by man? It's like no.
Well,
and then YouTube decided that they were going to slap us with basically
a fact check.
I don't know, like community notes.
Yeah,
like on X.
It's the COVID V2 warning.
And it was whatever. We started talking about it because the idiots on X talking about how the human beings might have engineered the hurricane, right?
That's right.
And then we kind of went off on a tangent, and we get a little blue note under the video that says, and this is who they cite, the United Nations. That's number one. That's all bad. But it says climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns, period. Then human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. And it's like, that first part was right. The second one, that was the whole point of our discussion, is we were like, maybe, but there's not enough data. So caught you up on that, Roger. The rest of everybody's like, yeah, we heard that last week.
So I'll go ahead and give our little caveat or banner at the bottom with the climate change. The left has been doing this for years. We talked about it on earlier episodes where it went from man-made climate change to just climate change. And like Josh said, the climate's changing. We know that. It's changed since the beginning of time. We're actually supposed to be in a cooling off period right now. The point being is how much of that is actually caused by fossil fuels, us out there burning wood or whatever. And when you look at the composition of our atmosphere, it's only like 0.04%, CO2, right? And so just by like a trend, they're saying that CO2 or whatever causes climate change or causes the earth to warm faster. Well, we continue to dump carbon into the atmosphere every year, which means that every year the temperature should continue to go up, right? Which it doesn't. And it's such a small percentage of that. And I think we talked about before, it's, water vapor and mist and all that other stuff, but it pisses me off because now it's no longer man-made climate change. It's just climate change.
My question to those on the left who talk about climate change and, that we need to pass like the Green New Deal and all of these, climate change laws. My question is this: what temperature will the earth be if you pass everything you want to pass? What temperature will the earth be? And none of them can answer that. None of them.
Yeah.
So
it's a good point. It's a good point, Josh.
How much if we give the U.S. government all the money in the world to combat climate change, what will the Earth's temperature be?
Probably actually get warmer. You know what I mean? It's like we've had the last 2 weeks of hurricanes, and our hearts and prayers and everything goes out to all those that are impacted because they just got hit back to back, especially when you look at like Florida and stuff like that. But not 2 weeks before that, they were talking about, wow, I remember at the beginning of this hurricane season, it was supposed to be the worst hurricane season in 100 years. And we were just supposed to get annihilated by these storms. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, we haven't had a major storm. And now they had 2 back-to-back hurricanes within a week at the end of the hurricane season. And now all of a sudden it's the worst hurricane season in the history of mankind again. It's like out here, they, dude, I got tired of it because in Phoenix, like every day, they're like, we broke another record. We broke another record. Now, like you guys, you pull up the major city or whatever, and you see what the temp is. And where I'm at, it's always, I'm probably, I don't know, 30 minutes from the, downtown Phoenix or the center of Phoenix. And the temperature in Phoenix is always 5-10 degrees hotter than it is where I'm at because of concrete effect and that type of stuff, heat islands or whatever. And I was going back and forth, not really going back and forth. I was kind of reading some of the posts on X. And I made some, I was like, they said, oh, record breaking, 115 degrees in Phoenix today. So I replied, I'm like, yeah, 115 degrees on the tarmac at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. That is correct. And then the guy comes back with this, you're an effing moron and da 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 da. So I was like, okay, well, I have a weather station at my house. And with that, it gives you access to the other weather stations. So I put up the NWS weather station for this area. And you know where it's at? It's on the tarmac at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. Dude, you can't make this stuff up, which is, 10 to 15 degrees hotter than what it is if you were to do it out, in a neighborhood or grassy knoll or something like that.
Yeah, you should listen to Culper's Canteen Cup episode 166. You should probably listen to that.
Yep.
Hey man, been busy. Well, we've talked about that several times. It pisses me off because it's like we've gone beyond, just like fact checking. Like now it doesn't matter what the facts say. Like this is my narrative and this is just what it is. This is what I believe. And you're just stupid.
The most active hurricane season that we've had in the satellite era was 2005. Right now, I forget how many named storms there were. It's like 20 something. It was a lot of storms, but that was 2005. It was the most active hurricane season in the satellite era.
That was probably Katrina, wasn't it?
Well, Katrina was one of them.
Yeah.
2005. But the strongest hurricanes in history that we know about, right, since, we started recording them and tracking them, the strongest one hit the Keys in 1935. And then it goes, like 1969, 1992, 2018, 2021, 2020, 2004, 1932, 1919, 1886, and then again 2022. Right, so that's from the strongest to the least that have ever made landfall in the United States. And everybody keeps saying, oh, it's going to be the worst hurricane season in 100 years. Well, they said that for the last 15 years. Right, it's proven to not have been.
Yeah, and like you said, there's ways of manipulating the data on that. Because what does worst mean? Does that mean in dollars? Because in dollars, you can almost guarantee every year is going to be worse than the next. And you said that last.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's so you got to go back and look and you got to look and figure out the metrics that they use that are saying that, because obviously, not as many people lived on the coast in 1935 as they do in 2024. So of course people are like, oh, so it's the worst hurricane ever, in dollar amount. Okay, well, that's disingenuous at best.
Didn't they show like a map or something like that? I think it was like Miami, and they were like, hey, here's a picture of Miami in like 1950, and there's a little house here and there and whatever. And you look at it now, dude, it's not even 10-fold. It's got to be 100-fold with population.
Well, it's disingenuous, just like using colors, right? You take a look at a lot of weather maps now. When they start recording these, summer temperatures, it's all in like red and garnet. Yeah. Red. Like, and, you take a look at what they were using 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was all green. They were using greens and yellows and stuff. And now they're using reds, to make it seem harsher. It's very disingenuous. And, people need to pay attention to what's being said and how it's being said and the metrics used when they get these, whether it's a political poll or whether it's, some quote unquote, I'm throwing air quotes here, science. They need to step back and take a look at the data that was used to put that together.
But that's my point. They don't care. I mean, they don't care what the data says. They have a narrative that fits their agenda because of their political ideology or whatever it is. And it doesn't matter what data points you have. And heck, half the data out there, you're just waiting for it to be revised. Worse, it's like our jobs data, right? Man, we more jobs than any other president in history. And then, month after month after month, it continues to be revised downward. But even with that, even with the facts, it's no different than, and Josh, I don't know if you watched it. I caught most of it. It's no worse than the Kamala Harris interview that she just did on Fox News with Brett Baer. refuse to address the issues, refuse to address the facts, refuse to address the numbers, go attack Trump because it doesn't matter to these people. I mean, simple things like the border. Okay, those numbers are there. Like, I don't care who you are, and I don't care who the president was or whatever. You can pull those numbers up and you know what they are. You know how many illegals crossed, how many gotaways, how many, applied for asylum, how many were let go, this and that, or whatever. Those are facts. But it doesn't matter because those on the left will still sit here and try to convince you that, well, remember, for 3 years, we had a secure border. So we had a secure border for 3 years, but then all of a sudden overnight, it got so bad that it became a crisis. But it's not a crisis because she's still in office. So, I know how you play that out.
Did you guys see that? I think I texted it today. The FBI revised its crime statistics for 2022 in their uniform crime report. Because here for the last year, and especially Waltz and, Kamala, how do you say her name wrong now? Kamala?
I
don't know.
Well, who was the wrestler? Kamala was the wrestler, right? So she's Kamala.
Yeah,
Kamala.
I don't know. So they've been campaigning on crime is down, crime is down, crime is down. Well, the FBI came out today. They did it very quietly. They revised their 2022 crimes report, and instead of a 2.1% decrease in violent crimes, 2022 showed a 4.5% increase in violent crimes. They didn't announce it. They didn't put it out. All they did was revise the numbers on their website and hope that somebody wouldn't catch it for the next 3 weeks.
Let's talk about why that's a big deal, other than they're just lying for possibly, it sure looks like it's political. But let's talk about why that's a big deal. There are entities out there, large entities, that use those numbers to protect their employees. I happen to know this for a fact because I currently do that. We draw heavily on those numbers because we have to have an objective, a quantifiable crime rate number, and it has to be scalable. We can't reach out to every county, every city, every precinct and say, hey, what was the crime? It's just not scalable. We can't do it. So we use those crime statistics to determine whether there needs to be a time restriction on that particular area for people going in and out. So we were using, for 2 years, using incorrect data, period. And is somebody going to get hurt over that? I don't know, but it could happen. And we're not the only company doing that. A lot of companies use these numbers, a lot, government organizations as well, NGOs, they all use these things. And it's just, it's that undermining of institutions that we've been talking about. And that one really, really pissed me off today. That one made me upset because it's like, well, I've because of somebody else's screw up, people on my team have been given incorrect data to the field because we've been given incorrect data. It's not accurate. And it's upsetting, man. It's upsetting. People are going to get hurt because of that, but nobody thinks about that. Well, maybe.
But even worse, like with the crime data you talking about, we have been talking about this, and especially throughout, some of the sectors we deal with. And we've gone over it before where, hey, it's you don't have everybody reporting that you used to cover 98% of the population. Now you're only covering 65%. The largest cities aren't in there. And we've been telling folks this, right? But well, you're just a right-wing conspiracy theorist. Like the data shows. And then now 2 years later, you tell them and it's like, oh yeah, man. I guess that just kind of sucks and just move on. And the worst part about it, worse, there's zero accountability. You know what happened? Nothing. Nobody's gonna get fired. It's like Josh said. It's the midnight move. The football team overnight into Indianapolis. Nobody sees anything. It's just you wake up in the morning. There's a new report, and those are just the new numbers. The data's just always been like that. Zero accountability, dude. Nobody will get fired over it.
Yeah, nobody. And to Luke's point, people could get hurt or worse because they're using incomplete data sets to try and protect their equities. That it's criminal. It's all bottom line. It's criminal, and nobody will, but people should go to jail over it.
Well, back to the Kamala thing. with the climate. I watched the whole interview. I honestly didn't expect Brett Baer to go that hard. I did, because he's kind of a softy, middle of the road kind of dude. Uh, and he really went at her from the opening bell, and it started out with that dog, Rag, Big Mop. If y'all are watching the video, there's a dog that's been barking in the background that's now licking Roger's face. Yeah, but Brett opened up with the border stuff, like Roger was saying, and he starts calling her out on the numbers, right? And so she leans back on, well, 9 days into office, we proposed, an action basically, and we were pushing for this bill that would have solved all these problems. You know what that bill was? It was an amnesty bill. It wouldn't have done anything for it. It was an amnesty bill. It was Citizen Immigration Services. It was a CIS bill. It wasn't a BP bill. It wasn't an ICE bill. It was basically an amnesty bill. So her solution, or the solution on the left, is, well, you solve the problem just by opening it. Why? One of two things: either granting everyone amnesty that's already here and then shutting down the border. They don't, but that's not what they do. So what is it? Grant everyone amnesty and create the biggest pull factor in the history of the planet? I mean, that's her answers made no sense. She was out of control. I thought she tried to maintain some control, but she was getting tough questions she didn't want to answer. So she just went to factory default mode of blame Trump on everything. We need to turn the page. And he really pressed her on that. He's like, well, what page are you trying to turn? You've been president for 3.5 years. Well, I'm talking about Trump. He's like, that was almost 4 years ago. Well, I'm talking about Trump, and I don't know, maybe let's get another banner on YouTube about sexism or whatever, and gender stereotypes. But a shrill, angry woman doesn't play well with me. Every time Liz Warren gets up there and does her thing, shrill, I read it as shrill. That's how it comes across in my brain. In their brains, and a lot of females out there, oh, that's a woman being strong. But from a man's perspective, yeah, we don't like that. We don't like that. And I don't know, am I alone in that? When you guys see shrill, angry women, really going after it, it just comes across different as men, and it's not fair. It's just a fact.
Well, her tone of voice, and when you look at the audience for Fox News, well, one, she had to go on there, right? I mean, you're starting to see like serious polls where she's losing a lot of support, and she's losing a lot of support from independents that still don't know what she stands for. So you go on Fox News, who has I think they have the largest swath of independents of all the major networks that watch that. So she had to go on there to kind of make up some ground. And I think, to your point, Luke, it's like, that is not how you win over independents. That angry, cackling, high pitch. I mean, just all of it, right? And it makes me wonder. It's like, okay, it is no secret. It shouldn't have been a secret, the questions that she was going to be asked. And we can say the same thing about Donald Trump, right? When he gets up there on the town halls and this and that we know what they're going to ask. We know they're going to bring up January 6th and yada, yada. So for her, like, why does her team not prepare her with an answer? Like, you're going to get beat up on the border. They're going to bring up how many people came across. You're going to get beat up on Iran. They're going to talk about the $60 billion that you released. You're going to get, beat up on what's happening with Israel right now. You're going to get beat up on prices. And I'm not saying that her answers, it's going to be the end all be all and solve them or whatever. It's like, hey, I am definitely, I mean, you got a team of folks that are paid a butt ton of money. So you're going to craft, or you should, 2-3 sentence answers that answer the question, and at least don't make you seem like you're so flip flop and just like, I mean, did she answer anything? It's like, to your point, everything that she said was, but Trump. I'm turning the page on the last decade. Okay, so let's look at the last decade. So last decade was 3.5 years of your administration, 4 years of Trump. And then, oh yeah, who was before Trump? Barry was before Trump. So are we talking about 2 or 3 years of Barry's administration too? That's the type of stuff that I wish Brett Baer would have pushed her a little bit harder on. I mean, those are things like, how she's going to respond. So that's the stuff that you want to throw out there. But again, they want them to come back on so they don't press too hard, because if you piss her off or you totally stump the chump, she just won't come back on, for another interview.
So I didn't I didn't watch it, but it seems to be the reaction on on social media is that she completely flubbed it. It doesn't matter how well you prepare her. I mean, you go back to the primaries, the 2020. She knew what she was going to get hit on, and she walked on that stage, and Tulsi Gabbard absolutely demolished her, and Kamala had no answer for it. She tried to distance herself a little bit from from Biden in the debate with with Trump. She's tried to distance herself a time or two, from Biden earlier. But once she gets off that teleprompter, she is an unmitigated disaster. She cannot freestyle without that teleprompter like Donald Trump can. That's when Trump's at his best, in a sense, is when he's off that teleprompter and he's just kind of you let him run wild. You put him on a teleprompter and it does it is you lose what makes Trump Trump. Good or bad, because Trump's his own worst enemy and Trump can't get out of his way. And I'm generally the first one, and Luke, to say when Trump is when he's effing it up. But yeah, she doesn't have those canned answers, or she does and she can't pull them out on the spot. She's terrible. She's absolutely terrible, and she's not very bright. I don't care what people say. Kamala Harris is stupid. She is stupid. She's not smart. She didn't get where she was by being smart. She got where she was because she did some favors for Willie Brown, and she got where she got to the vice presidency because she's a black female. And Joe Biden himself said that was the only reason he picked her. So, she got to the Senate because, again, she's a black female and she ran in California. That's it. So she is what she is. But looking at the polls, and if you believe some of the polls, that campaign's in trouble. I'm not saying that Donald Trump's going to win. I still think that Kamala Harris is going to win because of shenanigans. And I think the shenanigans are going to be through the roof because of what some of those polls are saying now. When you're dead even in Wisconsin on some polls, you're in trouble. I don't care who you are. You are in trouble when you are dead even in Wisconsin, of all places. Same thing with Pennsylvania. You're dead even, you're in trouble. Your campaign's in trouble. So
yeah.
When the Wisconsin one was an internal leaked poll, right? From the Dem candidate up there. And they were saying that, hey, that's a shot. She's like, hey, we need help here.
Yeah. Well, they pulled Barry out on the trail and they got Bill out on the trail, and Bill didn't do him any favors when, he mentioned, he was like, yeah, that girl probably still be alive if the border was, had been taken care of last couple of years. And it's like, ooh,
yeah.
Who's that dude campaigning for?
When he walked into the McDonald's and the cashier, who was probably in her 40s, didn't know who he was. That's kind of a gut check right there. But,
hilarious.
There was some rumblings. Okay, I won't even go off the polls, right? Because I'm not going to be one of these people like that. 2 months ago, I didn't believe the polls, but now I do. That's not logical. But I'm going to go off of this as their actions, like you're saying, Josh. Their action. I'm judging by their actions. I believe they perceive that they're in trouble. Bringing Barry, going on Fox, getting Bill Clinton out of his musty old whorehouse that he lays his nappy head down on every night. It just seems like they're in trouble, like they're just by their actions. And, the rumblings about her going on Joe Rogan. Oh my God. Whoever told her that, we would all like to see it. We're like, hell yeah, do it. But man,
she's not going on after tonight.
Not after tonight. And I mean, whoever told her that probably doesn't understand. It's probably never really watched or listened to, a few Joe Rogan podcasts. She would not do well. And also Joe Rogan holds all the cards on that. He's not going to be like, no, you're not giving me rules. 30 minutes. No, I'm not doing that. I've never done a 30-minute show. That's not what I do. But yeah, she would not do well. And yeah, as far as her winning, I don't know. Again, my heart and my mind tell me two different things. My heart's telling me it's going to be not a Reagan blowout, but a blowout, just because of the energy. But my mind that's what my heart tells me. But my mind is telling me more like what Josh is saying. If it's close, the hijinks are going to be crazy. So let's talk about this for a minute. Think about the hijinks back in 2020, because I mean, there were hijinks. All right. I'm not going to say the election was stolen. I'm saying the conditions were set to where it was stacked. Okay. Donald Trump would say rigged. I would say stacked. It was heavily stacked in Joe Biden's favor. And it's apparent. Like just little things like they can't even be like quote unquote proven, like the water main break in Georgia. The graph that spikes up, after 4 a.m. If I'll maintain this, if they're going to play hijinks, they're going to have to do it way more than they did last time. It's going to be way more blatant, and it's going to be way more visible. So, Roger, if it's way more visible in light of what happened in 2020, what do you think happens?
Dude, it's funny. Well, one, I don't know. I don't know what level of cheating that they're going to have to make up some of the, again, like you said, we're polling, everybody's got one, who knows it. Just looking at the RCP average, I mean, even like the NBC polls got the national poll, which doesn't mean crap. They've got it tied. Dude, if the Republican is tied on a national poll by a left-leaning organization, you are in serious trouble. So you hope that the gap is just so big that whatever cheating occurs just doesn't make up the difference. I see this thing as one of two things. I mean, one, and I know it's not a direct answer, but like Josh, you can't rule out Kamala winning or a Donald Trump blowout. I don't think it'll be a close Donald Trump win. I think Donald Trump carries close to 300 electoral votes, or Kamala wins in a close one. I don't think Donald Trump wins in a close one. What worries me is when you have states like Pennsylvania. Well, let me back up a second. One thing that does make me feel a little bit different about this one is that you're seeing a lot of actions by the GOP leading up into it to, clean their voter rolls up a little bit. Hey, you have to have, Arizona show your driver's license. By the way, like we discussed before, it's not 60 some odd thousand people that were undocumented. It's like over 280 or whatever. It's about to be 400,000 that didn't prove citizenship. But you're starting to see a lot of these states try to clean up their rolls a little bit. And there's a big push by the GOP to do that. So I think a lot of that cheating, or some of that cheating, will be eliminated. What worries me seriously, and even to this day, is like the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. Right? I actually have more of an issue with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and what they did in the 2020 ruling, where they just strictly legislated from the bench and said, it doesn't matter. These ballots are all good. It's like, that's actually not what the state constitution says. And they did it, and there was just no check over it. There's no check and balance. And, it reminds me of, like, regardless how the election turns out, but either side's going to fight it, right? They're going to fight their returns. But if you're a political candidate up there for the party, like the party, just for the sake of like the stability of our country, you can't have the majority of people questioning the elections. You don't want it. So at that point, regardless of what happens, if there is cheating, widespread cheating or whatever, dude, they're never going to overturn an election. The courts are not going to do it. I mean, I think we saw one court in Indiana that did it like 2-3 years ago, but could you imagine a court overturning a presidential election? I mean, dude, you'd have 60% of the country that just wouldn't vote again, And so I think from that aspect, they're more inclined to just like, hey man, however it turns out, states manage their stuff. And if I think it was Georgia, right? Georgia just ruled that, oh, well, your local electors, they have to certify the vote, regardless whether you think there's fraud or not. You have to certify it. Well, to me, it's like the signature on the back of my credit card. I don't have to do anything. Okay. If you could make me sign that, there wouldn't be a spot for a signature because you would just mandate that this is enforced. The fact that there's an option there that I have to take an action to certify. And again, I didn't get into the legalese of it, but that tells me it's like, no, but you have a court coming in saying, doesn't matter if you think widespread, fraud, either side, you have to certify it. That's the stuff that scares me.
Yeah, so the big thing in Georgia also is kind of a little bit of a loss for Donald Trump is the GOP in Georgia and the election boards. They pushed to have every ballot hand counted, and a judge came back. They put a rule in. Judge came back yesterday or this morning and basically overruled it, so that they don't have to hand count them.
I don't know what hand counting means anyway. What does that mean? Hand counting.
Paper ballots, you don't run them through a machine. So right now they just run them in a machine to count the votes. Hand counting means person has to sit there and count them.
Well, the way Texas does it
So-
is not hand counting. It is machine, but it's very secure. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing down in Georgia. Devil went down there,
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, Georgia still has some issues with their voter rules, because like I said, I think I said a couple of episodes ago, I got a jury summons from, the county in Georgia where my parents live, where I was a resident, after I gave up my Alaska residency. And, when I called down there and was like, hey, I haven't been a Georgia resident for probably a good, 4 years since I retired. And, not gonna be there for jury duty. And the girl was like, oh, okay, well, just here's what you got to do to get out of it, and blah blah. And she's like, oh, I was like, so how do you pick people for jury duty? She's like, oh, it's our voter rolls. I guess we haven't updated them in a while, But I was just like, this is the county, this is the county clerk. I was like, there's an election coming up. Now might be a good time to go in and update your voter rolls. Because I would have gotten a ballot in the mail to vote in Georgia.
And back in the day, in 2020, the guy I was working for, the defense attaché there in Slovenia, he got 3 ballots. And we looked at it and we did some research. He and I were like, and he did he made some phone calls and everything. And what we determined is he could have sent all 3 of them in, and all 3 of them would have been counted because none of them were from the same state. Unbelievable. Yep. It's like, well, no, what I'm sorry, 2 were from the same state, and the third one was from like Utah or something. But either way, it's kind of crazy, huh?
Our elections are so broken, and they need to get fixed. One thing I would do if I were king for a day: one, if you do not pay taxes or own property, you do not get to vote. Period.
What's own property mean?
It means you own property that is taxed. So if you own a car, it's in your name, and you have to pay an ad valorem tax on it, then okay, you can vote. If you own property, like if you own a home that you have to pay taxes on that you never fully own, you don't get to vote. If you own real estate,
if you have a mortgage, you can vote.
If you have a mortgage, you can vote. If you pay taxes, you can vote
on property.
On property,
I can get with that.
You can vote. If you don't, you don't get to vote.
Some people would call that a poll tax. They would argue against you. They would say that's
fine.
Of a poll tax.
That's fine. They can argue all they want to, but if you don't have skin in the game, why do you get to vote and dictate how my money is taken and how my money is spent when you're not paying into the kitty to begin with?
Dude, it's all bullshit anyway, because one thing that does is there's some accountability there, right? And so it's an easy system to fix. Serialized ballots, period. Staple a dollar bill to that bad boy. Because here's the thing, and I know we're going to be called conspiracy theorists and this and that. At this point, I really don't care. All I want is fair and free elections. That's it, period. Just fair, free, transparent. I think I threw this out there on the text, and I don't think we talked about it on the show, but so when you look at the voting age population in 2020 and then the turnout, it was like it's 61.5%. Okay, so 61.5% of the voting age population turned out to vote. And that's what you see all over the news, right? And I'm like, okay, I can dig 1.5%. There's a little bit of cheating here because you guys might remember. Of those who actually registered to vote nationwide, do you know what the percentage of turnout was? Voter turnout?
Less than probably 20.
98.15%. You will never convince me that 100 out of 161,420,000 people that registered to vote, that over 158,000 of them actually made it to the polls to vote. And again, I'm not talking about left, right. I didn't break it down by state. Look at Democrat, Republican. I'm just looking at this. I mean, that's almost. I'm not a mathematician. Maybe one of our listeners can chime in. But to me, that's almost statistically impossible, dude. 98.15% of the registered voters in 2020 turned out to vote in the presidential election.
There's no way.
Yeah, no way.
You can't get 98% of the people to show up for work on time.
How
So
about
what percentage of people have turned out to vote? And let's say go back to the 2000, start with the 2000 presidential election. Right? I'd be
So
curious to see that number, and all of a sudden it spikes that high in 2020. There's no, like you said, statistical improbability.
so generally speaking, with the voting age population, I didn't go back and actually crunch how many turned out. You're in the 50s. You've got 96 was 49, 2000 was 50, 2004 is 55, and then you jump up to 61. But that's a good one. I have to go back and actually look at the numbers.
That's
Statistical improbability.
It's very, very improbable because you got to consider, as mobile as the U.S. population is, just simply by you're registered in California and you move to Texas or you move to Florida, like college age kids who are registered to vote in their home county, they're not voting because they don't, number one, they don't care. They don't think about it until the last minute. It's too late. There's got to be a lot of people, a percentage, maybe, I don't know, maybe 0.5% of the 100% that are unable to vote because they don't qualify. They no longer live there. So it's like if that is 0.5%, there's it's probably higher than that. I don't know. It's hijinks. And plus all the stuff going on in 2020 with the mail-in stuff and all,
There's no way.
It's, first of all, election day needs to be a national holiday, period. And
Yes.
it needs to be a national holiday. And I you were talking about jury duty, if you're registered to vote. So if you're registered to vote, I think every state, it should be like jury duty, counties, right? Every county should invoke a system to where if you're registered to vote, your name can be randomly pulled out of a hat and you have to work that day on election day. You have to report somewhere and, either count ballots or whatever. And it's like, well, Luke, that's kind of crazy. And it's like, well, that's where the state gets involved, the state and the counties, where the law enforcement and the Board of Elections gets very serious about making them fair and transparent, accurate, fair, transparent, right? And they're there making sure all the people on jury duty, just like you are jury duty, the bailiff is taking you around. You can't get out of hand when you're on jury, man. You can get in serious trouble for that. So I mean, there are ways to fix this. Just need to take it much more seriously. But Americans don't want to hear, wait a minute, you're going to give me a federal holiday and I may have to work on that federal holiday? And they'll be like, I don't like that. Because you're lazy is what it is.
Yeah, and that's why I think that we should go back to not everybody gets to vote, because you know what? Not everybody's voting anyway. So it's not, it's not going to be a great.
Well, they did in 2020, apparently.
Yeah, no, dude, that is statistical improbability. There's you will never ever convince me that those were real people that voted ever.
And now I read somewhere where there are actually more registered Republicans than Democrats now. Not that that means anything, but it is a good sign.
Right. It is a good sign, especially because Scott Pressler, put out the money. So Bucks County, PA, is now like plus Republican, registered Republicans, and I forget, what the number was, but it was four digits in Bucks County, PA, and that's pretty huge. The fact that the Trump campaign has not picked him up and hired him and put him on the payroll is crazy. That guy's been crushing it.
Didn't he have some history? Didn't he have some legal history or something like that?
I have no idea.
I have to look it up. I thought I read something about like he's had a a very troubled past, but I don't know the extent of it. I don't want to make it up. I think that's just what I heard in the rumor mill.
You know what, man? Everybody's got a little grit on them. It's fine. Hey, give me somebody. I don't want Boy Scouts. I want the biker gang.
Oh, I'm with you, dude. I mean, what he's doing out there, and if you follow him on X or whatever, if you don't, you need to. Dude, you get a guy like him in every state, you're going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of it. That dude is changing numbers by himself.
If those people show up to vote.
If they vote.
Because like Lou said, if they show up to vote, get off your butt and go vote.
Are you guys going to vote early?
Yeah, I'm going to vote early.
When can you vote early in North Carolina?
It opened today.
Oh, really? Texas, it opens, I believe, this next week. It's 17 days, I think, is when Texas opens. So we're 19. So I guess it opens this Friday, I'm thinking.
North Carolina opened early to allow time for all the people in Western North Carolina dealing with the aftermath of the hurricane to be able to get to get their votes cast.
Kind of sucks because now I won't be able to carry my gun into my most favorite grocery store to stop at to get beer, because that grocery store has a polling place and you can't bring firearms into a polling place. That sucks.
So the whole grocery store becomes a polling place?
No, well, there is a section in the grocery store, where there's a little area where you go vote, but by virtue of that grocery store is now a polling place. You can't bring your gun in there. The whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time to get robbed, huh?
Yeah. Well, kind of going far afield, but I had no idea the security systems that United Supermarkets has in place. Like, they take security pretty damn seriously. It's crazy, man. It's way more robust than I thought. Like, they have like 5 folks on staff just for security in one grocery store. Crazy, right?
Damn.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, especially now, dude. I mean, you look at your Walmarts and your CV. I mean, you want to go buy toothpaste and it's locked up because loss prevention, man. I mean, it's an insane amount of money every day that walks out the door.
Did you see the article The Atlantic posted today about shoplifting? Yes. It was wild. They're like shoplifting is an epidemic and we really can't figure out how to stop it. It was like, I don't know. Maybe you could enforce the law if you want. You could generally arrest people, for committing crimes. That's somewhat of a deterrent. But if you can't figure that out, then maybe you should just allow vigilante justice and, let the cards fall where they may. Because I'm pretty sure there's some people out there like, oh, now we can just start shooting people for shoplifting. Sign me up.
Yeah, the answer is pretty simple, man. I mean, and these are so-called smart
Not
people writing for The Atlantic. Well, I just don't know how to fix this. How do we do this? God almighty.
Dude, it's just straight gas. I mean, they don't live in the same world we do. It's the, Kamala up there. Well, I've been endorsed by this. She's endorsed by people that aren't impacted by her shitty decisions over the last 3.5 years. So Josh, I know what you kind of said it. You think Kamala's going to win. So it's you think it's a blowout? You think it's close? You think it's similar to like a 2020 thing? Or is that, and we got time. I know there's still several weeks left, but you think she's like going to pull out a nail biter, or how do you think that ends up?
I don't think she pulls out a nail biter. I think I think it's a blowout because I think with what's going on right now in these even polls, and you take a look at CNN, you take a look at The View, you take a look at a couple of other left-leaning skewed things, like they look worried. I mean, you take a look at Van Jones and the way he was talking about the Harris campaign yesterday, like that guy looks worried. He looks exactly the same right now that he did during the Biden-Trump debate. They have that look on their face like, man, it's in trouble. And so that is going to, they're going to go ahead and get the hijinks, the shenanigans machine fired up, and that thing's going to go full tilt. They know they got to go full tilt because if those polls are true, then that thing's got to get going. And so I think it's going to go overboard. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because, what is it? 70 million people? 70 million people are going to show up for Democrats, period. And then the hijinks are going to go ahead and carry them over. I don't know that 80 million people are going to show up for Donald Trump.
How many people do you think will show up for Donald Trump?
I think Donald Trump's going to be in the high 60s.
I'm going to say it's going to be more than that. I
hope you're right.
Yeah, because, what was it? What did Biden get? 81? And 81. Then Trump got 79 or something? Was it? What was it? Roger's going to look it up real quick. I can look. But I predict Trump's going to get more than he did last time because
he got 74 million last
74. Time. Okay. Well, I'm going to say this time he's going to get 79. And I say that because, and I'm not saying he's going to win with 79. I'm saying if he gets 83, he'll win. But he'll get 79. And I say that because, man, people were just tired in 2020. There was no energy for Trump. He ran a horrible campaign. This year is different. I think that there's going to be, but I think this will be a record Republican turnout. That's my prediction. I know it's wishy washy. I know it's milquetoast. I'm going heart and mind. My heart's saying Trump's going to get 79, and Kamala's going to get like 64, and the hijinks will push that up to like 72. That's what my heart tells me. But my mind is just like is more toward Josh. It's like, man, I don't know enough about how they can cheat, and I know they will, and I know it'll be certain counties, but I don't think that. I'll tell you, this is where I disagree. If she does win, I do think it'll be a nail biter. I don't think it'll be a blowout.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely hope you're right. But at the end of the day, Trump ran a terrible, terrible campaign in 2020. But I just don't. I don't have that much faith in the American people. I don't.
So
the American people destroyed any faith I had in them in 2020 and 2021 with COVID.
Well, you don't have to worry about the people if Kamala wins anymore. That's a fact. It's just the government. Something interesting is going on in Texas with the guy running against Ted Cruz named Colin Allred, former NFL player, linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. And we actually got invited to a fundraiser for him. One of my wife's friends invited us. And the wife and I just decided against it because it was kind of an intimate affair. And it's like, we don't feel right going it just didn't feel right. And we don't want to be around those people. So we didn't go. It would have been good fodder for the podcast, but it's like, we're not going to give any money. I'm never going to vote for this guy. I don't care what he says. But on the other hand, the reason I say it's interesting is because the race is really close between him and Ted Cruz. And not putting C3 first. That's exactly right. I didn't. I put my own feelings before y'all. Ha! But Colin Allred's actually a pretty moderate Democrat. Kind of a Manchin type Democrat. I disagree with him on the border because he's more of the amnesty type thing. But he's actually pretty moderate. So, like, if he did beat Ted Cruz, it would be a horrible, horrible loss. But it wouldn't be as bad as, like, Warren, Senator Warren winning. He's actually kind of moderate. And that's the kind of Democrat that can win in Texas is your moderate, like for senator at least. So it's interesting. I think that Trump will carry Cruz in this election. I think he'll carry him. But if this was an off year, Ted Cruz might be in serious trouble.
Yeah, because I think latest poll, I think I saw it this morning because they just had their debate over the weekend or earlier in the week or whatever. I think they've got him up like 5 points or something like that, Ted Cruz. But he always seems to be in trouble. So is he, and Luke, you obviously know the area better than we do. Is he just unlikable or is he too far to the right for Texas?
A lot of people
at the Senate level.
A lot of people feel the same way I do about Ted Cruz in Texas. Everybody believes he's competent, but knows he's a politician first. And that really, for me, and I've talked to multiple people, and it's like, yeah, I remember that. They remember the Republican National Convention in 2016, where Ted Cruz, before the convention, had signed the pledge that he was going to endorse whatever candidate. He got up there to speak, and he would not endorse Trump. He told everybody to vote their conscience. He never said he endorsed him. And he got booed off the stage. If anybody remembers that. And I remember standing there saying things I say that, I don't really follow through on. But I said in the heat of the moment, I said, I will never vote for Ted Cruz again. And I'm going to have to take that back this time. And I haven't voted for him since. I'm going to this time because it's more important for me to see him in the Senate than Colin Allred. It's like the two of the lesser evils, right? Or what the lesser evil thing. And so I'm going to vote for him. But that's kind of the feeling here. It's like this dude, what a politician. I know we all laughed about it, but when he took that trip during the freeze down to Cancun or wherever he went, that was a bad look. And people are just like, geez, it's just really hard to like the guy. He comes through for us, he comes through for us. He does. He's looking out for Texas, but it's just like, we wish we had somebody else,
Well, I don't feel bad for any Democrat, but it's got to be tough for them. It's no different than the Tim Walz vice presidential debate. It's like, how do you sit there and defend the last 3.5 years of the Biden administration that they enabled? And that's my problem. And we've talked about this from, the Reagan years and Reagan Democrats to now, to where, okay, I felt like we had similar goals. We just had different ways of getting there. And now the goals are different. And so when you look at the Democrats, it's hard to find that solid moderate, because it's like, these folks on the left have enabled what we have witnessed for the last 3 years. I mean, we've said it, time and time again, and Josh hit on the head with, sometimes Trump just can't get out of his own way. Dude, I would go to every debate that I could, and I would just show up with a shopping cart of groceries. It's like, this is what you pay right now for this. This is what you paid under me. This is what you pay for gas right now. I mean, you've got 4 or 5 data points that you can throw out there, and it's like, hey man, mic drops. Like, y'all can shut the hell up. This is reality. This is fact. But you've got people that I've got family members that, man, I tell you what, dude, they just don't like Trump. It doesn't matter. Like, I'll pay $10 a loaf of bread. I just don't like Trump. And I'm not looking for a guy that's likable. I need somebody, maybe Ted Cruz, he's not obviously the same type of personality as Trump is, but maybe it's just like, hey man, he's just not a likable guy, but as long as he delivers, it's hard for me now to, even when you look at Sinema out here in Arizona, who's retiring or stepping down or whatever. And, we've got the 2 worst candidates from the Republican and the Democrat side running right now. But it's just hard to go along with anybody on the left, because they've enabled this last 3.5 years. I mean, there's no way I can do it. And I think, with Trump, if he does win, he's going to have a difficult time in office, because we talked about before where he might get 2 years out of it. Right. Because, you're going to have a lame duck presidency at the end. He's not running for reelection. Maybe he gets the House and the Senate 2 of the years if he's lucky. And then your last 2 years, you're done. So he's got 2 solid years. But, on the other hand, I'm like, man, like, if he just did nothing, things would improve. I mean, that's the reality of it. If he just did nothing, things would improve, because everything that the Biden-Harris administration has put their hands on is turned to dog poop. And not even looking at political parties. Just look at the numbers, man. I have this argument with colleagues of mine, and it's just, it's always the same thing. What, you'd vote for a felon? Well, I know I'm paying $4 a gallon for gas right now. So yeah, absolutely right. And more of these court cases. Did you hear Fonnie Willis is trying to refile her charges again, because every one of these things are getting kicked back. He's winning, whether appeals or, the state Supreme Court judges, or where there's like, hey man, there's nothing here. Not to say he doesn't get convicted and, ends up doing time or whatever. Of course, I think if he loses, they won't even care anymore anyway. That's probably their worst nightmare, is that Kamala, for Democrats, your worst nightmare is that Kamala actually wins. I mean, think about that, Josh. Do you think the Democrats actually want Kamala to win? I mean, she wins. One, you're stuck with her for 8 years. And, you've got some up and comers on the Democratic side that you pretty much take out of the running, man, for the next 8 years.
Yes, the Democrats want Kamala to win, because Kamala is a useful idiot. Just, much like Biden. Not their first choice, but at the end of the day, he's going to do what the Democrats tell him to do.
But I'm looking at like the Shapiros and the Newsoms.
Kamala,
you've got the Whitmers, those people.
Yeah, they want Kamala to win, so she'll be the little Dutch boy for 4 years, and she puts her finger in that dam until they run the Newsom or the Whitmer or the Shapiro.
She can run 8 years.
Trump. Yeah,
they don't want her.
So I mean,
Shapiro does not want her. Neither does Newsom. There's no way, because she's going to run. If she's going to run for another 4 years, that's going to. And they're thinking right now, we don't want another situation where we got the president stepping down and the DNC is being seen and Obama's working behind the scene. Like, I'm not saying the DNC doesn't want her. I'm saying people like Shapiro, Newsom, Kathy Klobuchar, whatever, Klobuchar, people who might actually have a shot, they're rooting for her to lose.
Maybe. I don't see it. At the end of the day, they don't want Trump back in office. They do not want Trump back in office, especially with the way the Senate is looking right now. Right now, the predictions, and again, these are all, predictions, the Senate's going to be 51-48 in favor of the Republicans. Trump gets back in office. What does that mean? that means that, Mitch McConnell, if he still knows his own name and knows what day it is, that means judicial nominations, right? Not even counting potential SCOTUS nominations. That means judicial nominations in the circuit courts, in the federal courts. They do not want that. And
Who?
they damn sure don't want a position to where the Senate can nominate SCOTUS justices. They do
Well,
not want that.
I'll agree that, like, your senior senators, and representatives like Hakeem Jeffries and senior members of the DNC, yeah, they don't want that for sure. But these people, like, I guarantee fundraising for a Josh Shapiro or whoever, and senators, who are kind of junior, whatever, fundraising is a lot better under Trump than it will be under Kamala. So, I mean, I'm saying that the power players, sure, they don't want a Trump presidency, but, like, again, I'll go back to Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, and anybody who has a chance to actually run for president, they're rooting for her to lose, man. What does Josh Shapiro give a crap about?
I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's just, all I'm saying is there are people who would not be so upset, and especially in the media. Think about it. Like, if you're a CEO or president, it's like, please let him win. It's ratings bonanza. But yeah, I think there are people that if she loses, would be like, oh, okay, we'll get him next time, which should have been their approach the whole time.
But there is something interesting that Josh typed, judicial nominations, because looking at the age, and I forget what their record was, but, Clarence Thomas is 76. So let's say Trump wins, right? Let's say they're like, and I get it, I agree. DNC as a whole, like, you always want your candidate to win. There are a lot of powerful individuals that are up and coming and, don't. But you look at Clarence Thomas at 76. If Trump were to win, I could see him retiring, right? Trump picks a new justice. Alito's 74. That would put him at 78, possibly 79. So you're looking at probably 77, since they won't do anything the last year. He could possibly retire. The interesting one is Sotomayor, because she's got health issues, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of speculation out there that she's just trying to make it through to a Kamala win, so that, hey, at least she gets replaced by, another Democrat. You could be looking at a 7-2 court.
Yeah.
Would you,
a young 7-2 court?
Well, you can forget all that if she's elected. It being even 9 justices. Yeah. So it's going to be ugly. You said something about convicts. Would you vote for a convict? Let's go through a few convicts here, right? Some felons. Robert Downey Jr., Danny Trejo, Anne Boleyn, Frank Sinatra, Henry Lawrence, who was actually convicted of treason and put to death in England back in the day, Mahatma Gandhi, Mark Wahlberg, Martha Stewart, Muhammad Ali, Nelson Mandela, Snoop Dogg, Socrates, Tim Allen, and Tupac Shakur. I'd vote for any of them over Kamala, really. A few of them over Trump, probably.
Agreed.
Martha Stewart, man, she got screwed.
Oh yeah, she went to jail for what people in Congress do on a daily basis.
Yeah,
she went to jail for.
Yeah,
but you know what? Though? That raised her street cred, because then she got Snoop Dogg on her cooking show.
But what do you do? Okay, and I vaguely remember some of the details. I remember the insider trading from, I think it was M Clone or something like that. But, like, what do you do? Like, so I'm working for M Clone. Josh, you own 400,000 shares of M Clone. And, man, I come to you like 2 days, before it gets released or whatever the stuff, the issue was, or the time frame was. I'm like, dude, we're going to take a freaking beating. Like, what do you do? Like, what's the right answer? What, you just hang on to it?
Well, I was thinking about, because the company I work for had their earnings report came out yesterday. And the earnings, they beat earnings, but the outlook doesn't. They're predicting a weaker than expected outcome, right? Or in 2025. So their stock tanked like 7.8%. That's a lot. A lot of people knew what that earnings report was going to be. How, and it's not like it's classified. I know there's laws against it and everything, but yeah, it's like, Roger, I mean, geez, how difficult. If I own, I mean, just short it for a day. Just short it for a day, put the limit at 5% or something like that. $10,000 on a short. You're going to pay out a little bit, but you're going to make a lot. It's like the temptation. The point is, the temptation's there. It's there for the taking. And I mean, I guarantee you that's why there's expensive houses everywhere, because people are dropping hints to their friends. You know, they're just dropping hints to their friends.
And I can see if it's solicited or somebody's on your payroll or you're paying somebody, like, obviously, right? That's crossing the line. But, and again, I forget all the details with her, but man, somebody comes to you with that. It's like, man, that would be, especially if it's money that you've already got invested, which I think in her case, it was money she had invested. So we're not talking about, hey, Luke, Josh, I got a tip here. You need to go out and buy some of this, or you need to go short this or whatever. It's like, this is stuff that you've already invested in. And it's like, hey man, you're about to take a beating. So I guess, so you don't go to prison. You just hang on to it for, ever.
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
all the laws on that, on the insider trading stuff, but guarantee it happens. People get away with it, like Josh said.
Here's what I think: if an elected official is doing it and getting away with it, nobody else should ever go to jail for it.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me that Nancy Pelosi, Dan Crenshaw, and all these folks are just quote unquote that lucky. Nobody is that lucky. Nobody. And you're sitting up there, you're making the legislation that is putting a lot of these companies in these positions.
Yeah.
If that's not insider trading, I don't know what the hell is. Right? It's just, the federal government's getting ready to award a contract to Halliburton or pick your company, and all of a sudden your spouse goes and picks up, 50,000 shares, 100,000 shares, the week before this, contract gets awarded, and that's not insider trading. But whatever, dude.
And it'll never go away, right? I mean,
No,
they're
it'll
voting
never go away.
they're voting for their own raises.
Yeah.
They're not going to take money out of their pocket. I mean, so take a look at NANC. It's the Unusual Whales Subversive Democratic Trading ETF. It tracks Nancy Pelosi, and I'm just looking at the chart here. I looked at a 2-year chart. It was down at, whatever, $23 a share. Now it's at like 40 or whatever. And they have reporting requirements as far as timeline goes. Now, I forget what it is. It's like 60 days. So we see a lag of 2 months, whereas obviously she doesn't. We see this here and it's like $23 a share. She got into this stuff at 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
Right. You're just hoping to catch some of the tailwind on that thing, and maybe I can make a buck off of it.
And those same people turn around and want to try and pull the ladder up after they get to the top. Like Luke's favorite person, Elizabeth Warren, turns around and is like, Congress, elected officials shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks. It's like, oh, okay. Now that you climb to the top, you're going to turn around and pull the ladder up. But you made your million. You made your wealth on doing that very thing. And then you're going to try and virtue signal now that, that shit should not be a crime if elected officials are doing it.
So here's a bit of breaking news. It's come from the Washington Post, so it's legit. Well, whatever. It's out there in the media. How about that? It's not coming from some rando account on X, which I'm getting really tired of that on X, by the way, of people just posting something. Gene Simmons said that whatever, and there's no link to it or whatever. They're just, engagement farming is what they call it. But this one says, the Harris campaign has had preliminary discussions with Navy SEAL veteran Sean Ryan about going on his popular podcast.
Oh, Lord.
No way.
Well, he would be an easier one than Rogan. He would be an easier one. Yeah, he would. He lets him sit there and talk. Rogan is like, Sean Ryan will speak his mind, but I think that if I'm her, I'd rather go on Sean Ryan than Joe Rogan any day. So you would rather go, if you're advising Kamala, it's like you have to go on one of these two. You're going to have her go on Joe Rogan over Sean Ryan? Are you really going to do that?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
I want to hear why.
Because go back and look at Joe Rogan when he talks to politicians. And he hasn't talked to a lot of them, but he's talked to some. And go back and take a look at how hard has he pushed on them.
Well, he pushed on oh God dang it. I can't remember the name.
RFK?
No.
Because he didn't push on RFK at all.
Well, he likes RFK. He did push on
right?
he pushed on what? I can't remember his name. Patch McCain. Crenshaw. He pushed on Crenshaw.
You know why?
Well, I remember
because
the
Chris
podcast.
Shaw's a Republican.
Well,
Because Chris Shaw's a Republican. Rogan is more of a Democrat liberal than he is a Republican. He would not push on Kamala as hard as Sean Ryan would. Sean
I
Ryan
disagree.
is
Sean Ryan is a little bit better of a, not better. I should say better. Yeah, he is better. He's a better objective interviewer. He's a better objective interviewer. And there is also no telling what Joe Rogan's going to say. There is no telling. That guy is a loose cannon. That guy's a loose cannon.
I don't think he pushes as hard on Kamala as Sean Ryan would.
Well, we'll agree to disagree on that. Now let's talk about a.
Well, what's Sean Ryan's? Because I haven't listened to any of his podcasts at length. Like, what's his research and all? I mean, because like Joe Rogan, they do it on the spot, right?
He doesn't.
Like he's got a
he
team.
doesn't
Does he have the same thing?
He doesn't do a lot on the spot, and he also he would go hard on her on certain things for sure. He would. One of those things would be human trafficking. He'd be like, he would want to go hard on that. I also think, Sean Ryan is getting rich, but he doesn't have that same FU money as Joe Rogan. So I think that, I don't know. Either way, he did go really soft on Donald Trump. That's for sure. So, but I think they're barking up the wrong tree going after these anyway. Dude, nobody listens to Sean Ryan's going to vote for her, period. Let's talk about a conspiracy theory or conspiracy that's going around on X that's been picked up by these mid accounts, right? And
Sandusky?
Yeah. So a lot of people are saying this is an op, and I've been following it. It's like, yeah, this doesn't have that WikiLeaks feel. But there's a dude out there coming out saying that Sandusky took him to an Indigo Girls concert, of course, convinced this kid he was gay. This is back in '96 or something. And roofied his drink, and then he woke up and weird things were going on and things like that. So now I'm not all in on this, not even close, because dude, I'm just not all in on it. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just like, where are the big accounts picking this up? Like Christopher Rufo's not picking it up. He's not touching it. So it's like, I don't know.
Touching the plagiarism allegations, huh?
Yeah, that I remember when that used to wreck campaigns. Joe Biden remembers it too.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and that's the thing that they started giving him the pass, so everybody gets a pass on it. I think I do think it's an op. I've seen a couple of other accounts that they weren't that specific, but they kind of alluded to it and allegations and this and that. And I think it's you saw the Democrat playbook, man, with Kavanaugh and Trump, with Russia and the laptops. It's just allegations, right? You just make the allegations. And I do think it's an op because hey, man. So at the end of the day, Trump needs Democrats to not turn out. Okay. Now he obviously needs to get more votes, in each state electorally, yada, yada, yada. But you can't have 81 million people show up to vote for Kamala Harris, or you're going to lose. Okay. I think it ends up being like a 77 to 75 million. I think Trump pulls probably 77 million. I still think Kamala pulls in about 75 million. But you need people to stay home. And you're really looking, there's that percentage on the left that's going to vote for that head of lettuce regardless, talking about Kamala. So you're trying to keep, every 5, 10, 100 people, 1,000 people that you can at home, maybe in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, right? Maybe in Maricopa County, Pima County, Arizona. Because that could, determine the election. And I think, dude, I think you're spot on, man. I think it's a low key op that, hey, man, not trying to influence millions. I mean, it'd be kind of great if you could, but you're just trying to get to those people that are maybe already on the fence. Like, man, I don't want to vote for Trump. Maybe I'm an old school Democrat. And it's just, you're trying to get enough of that doubt out there that you keep some Democrats at home.
People are saying it's a deeper op than that. They're saying, let's put a fake one out there, make it look semi-credible, so that any other, and then just completely tear it apart and say, this is you see how the right does this. And then when the real allegation comes out, which it will, this isn't it. When the real one comes out, they'll be like, oh, this is just like the other. It's already been discredited. He's not a pedo. We already proved that, remember? That's what people are saying the op is. And it's like, well, that's how I would do it. If I knew that information would probably.
So they're thinking it's a Dem op, then a Democrat doing this stuff, then to kind of soften the blow later on.
Yeah, it could definitely be what you said too, but people are theorizing this is something that, they're trying to preempt the real thing coming down the pike. Which it won't surprise me. That dude is a freak. He's a freak. Weirdo.
If the GOP does not trot out their own Christine Blasey Ford in the next couple weeks, they are feckless, which we already kind of know they are, and they don't deserve to get another vote for now until.
Well, you better wait to see if they do that till election day, because if you cast your vote early and they don't do it, then they didn't deserve your vote.
You know what I'm saying, dickhead?
Oh, I know.
Don't be obtuse. All right. Watching what they have done over the last, X number of years, like you brought up with Kavanaugh, and even with the Stormy Daniel things, with Trump and all this other stuff. If they do not trot out somebody, because again, right, we have to believe all accusers. We don't get, we don't have the right to actually sit down and take somebody and listen, look at the evidence and come to our own decisions. We have to believe all accusers. So guess what? Find somebody who knows Tim Walz, who has some remote connection with him, who was at a high school party with him. Trot him out there and be like, he touched me in my swimsuit area. And there you go. Done. It doesn't matter if they're credible. You just need to go ahead and keep, like you said, you need to go ahead and keep those people home. Doesn't matter.
Even if it's just...
Because this is about winning, right?
Even if it's something just small. There's just something small. Like, there was a coach well-known. There was a coach well-known that he would stand there and watch the boys take the showers. I don't know he ever did anything, but he would stand there, arms crossed, watching the boys butt naked taking showers. And it was the weirdest thing in the world. Even if somebody came out and said that, it's not an accusation of anything other than dude's weird. And I've got 6 witnesses that said he would watch us take showers. Just something small. Anything. Can't tell me.
It's got to be more than that. It's got to be more than that.
But they got to drop it next week, right? I mean, everybody's already voting. Places are already voting, so it's got to come out next week if it comes out.
Yeah, it's got to come out next week. If it doesn't come out next week, then it doesn't. It's lost impact. It's not gonna matter. I would even say like the perfect time to drop it would be, like next Monday.
Don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up.
Oh no, I'm not getting my hopes up, dude. I lost all faith in the GOP years and years ago. Definitely, my hopes are not up because again, the right still thinks they're playing by the Queensberry's rules. They'd be like, oh no, we're above that. Our integrity is.
Well, I mean, look
reproach.
at Kamala's husband, right? He didn't knock her out, but I mean, dude, the media just
knocked her up.
Well, knocked the other chick up, and the other girl knocked her out. Man, just meh. Yeah. Media, left wing media did absolutely no coverage on it. Zero.
Well, what they would say, Roger, is, well, Doug's not running for office. He's not the one that you're electing. That's what they say.
Well, and that's what my next question was going to be is like, okay, so let's say you get Tim Sandusky Walz, right? You get somebody who says that. Is that enough to tank her campaign, or do you think it's going to be something that it's got Kamala specifically mentioned?
I think it has to have Kamala, because you look at the majority of the left. I mean, they're fine with chopping, little kids' genitals off. You think they're gonna be upset because
that's a good point.
Tim Walz Sandusky, touched some high school football player? No, they ain't gonna care about that. They're gonna be like, well, people are attracted to who they're attracted to.
I don't think any huge negative oppo is going to drop on Kamala between now and the election. I don't know if there is any out there other that hasn't already been put out, because she put out to get her jobs.
I agree.
Get it? Yeah. I don't know. Hope my heart is right. Did you guys see Elon Musk land in that rocket on a freaking
dude
on chopsticks?
Was that incredible?
That was
amazing.
That was badass.
And I heard his explanation on why he's doing it, and it's very, very interesting. he put this big post out on, not big, it's kind of an explanation on, somebody had said, getting to Mars, how difficult would that be? And he's like, well, the big thing is cost. He goes, I have estimated it's $1,000 trillion to colonize Mars, just to colonize it. To keep it up and running, it costs, how many ever, $500 trillion, whatever. And his thing was, he extrapolated that one of the big costs is getting things out of the atmosphere, right? And he said that this is a cost saving measure to get to the next step to make it cheaper to go to Mars. And it's just like, that's how that guy thinks. Next is going to be landed on a platform in the ocean. And it's just like, he is Howard Hughes of our generation, but not as weird, not quite as weird as Howard Hughes. Just amazing. We're really lucky, I think, to be living in his timeline. I used to not be a fan of his. Back in the day, I was like, who's this Elon Musk guy? Who's this dude? And then the more I learned about him, is mainly in Europe, I learned a lot more about him. I was like, you know what? This guy's all right. Yeah, I think, but he's just thinking on a completely different level. Thinking about going to Mars, man. That's what he's all about, is going to Mars.
Yeah. And, like you said, he is definitely the Howard Hughes of our generation. I really didn't pay attention to Elon Musk a whole lot until he bought X. And it was like, oh, okay. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that we would probably not agree with Elon Musk on, when it comes to, ideology and stuff. But he has done more for free speech in the United States than any elected politician ever has in the history of our country, other than writing the First Amendment. That's it. He has done more. And the only reason that we are going into this election with a social media platform that is generally, transparent and free and fair is because of Elon Musk. If the left owned X right now, a lot of these things you would have never heard about. I mean, think about how crazy it is that the attempted assassination on Trump in Pennsylvania, the second shooter at the golf course, and then this last guy. Look how quick that disappeared from the news cycle, and that was with X on our side. Not say on our side, but that was with a kind of a free and open X social media platform. Could you imagine what would have happened if that would have if the left would have controlled that? That would have been out of the news site. That would have been out of the social media cycle within 24 hours.
So speaking of Elon Musk, I want to bring up his anti-particle. What in the heck is going on with Mark Cuban? You guys been following his stuff on X?
Yeah, he's looking more and more like a lesbian.
He's completely
outside of just physical looks, right? But yeah, he's got like what is? I'm trying to find the motive, right? Like he's got FU money. I mean, he doesn't have quite as much as what Elon has, but I mean, the guy's got more money than what any of us will ever see and anybody we ever know combined. Like, what's the motivation there, man?
Power.
Compromise. And power. Yeah.
She'll make him.
I mean, what's he going to get? What's he going to be, like the SEC chairman or something?
No,
I mean,
no.
Even that is like, he's got that kind of money. Like
he wants something similar. I would guess that he wants something similar to what Elon has right now with his relationship with Trump and being the head of an advisory committee, the Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE. Mark Cuban wants that. Not that department, but he wants to be in.
That's actually pretty funny.
Did you make that funny. Up? No, Elon.
Did you just make that up?
No, Elon.
The Doge.
That's what he made.
No,
I love it.
But I think that Cuban wants something similar. He wants to be in that inner circle. That's what I think. But maybe he's just an idiot, batshit crazy.
Well, I mean, Mark Cuban is basically Temu. If you ordered Elon Musk from Temu, you get Mark Cuban. And his posts have been completely unhinged. But you go back and you look at his post, kind of starting in about 2018. He started going hard left. And I mean, he's just, when he posted, he was like, because he paid like 200 million, around 200 million in taxes. And he posted, I was so proud to write that check to the IRS. I was so proud to pay my taxes. And blah, blah. It's like, you're stupid. You're stupid. And he's like, of course he does what every other wealthy person does on the left. They're like, I just, I wish the government would have, charged me more. It's like, bro, you could write a check to the U.S. Treasury. Like, you can make a check out to the U.S. Treasury. They'll take it. They'll take that thing in a heartbeat. So if you feel you needed to pay more, feel free. It's not virtue signaling. But when he's out there saying, I wish I would have paid more than 200, whatever my 200 plus million in taxes was. Okay. You're either lying or you're stupid. One of the two. Or you're both.
Out of touch. Because
it just, yeah.
Completely. Forrest Gump said it best when he found out that, Lieutenant Dan had invested in a fruit company called Apple. And he said, I'll never have to worry about money again. And he said, well, that's good. One less thing. It's like, yeah, that's right. If you don't have to worry about money, that's the one big less thing you're ever going to have to worry about. Mark Cuban doesn't ever have to worry about money, even paying $200 million a year in taxes. So he's out of touch with people like us. Well, I don't know about you guys, but people like me, where a few percentage points, like you increase my tax, 3 or 4%. That's a big hit. That's a big hit for me. That's a cut in my quality of life. Mark Cuban doesn't understand that. So yes, he's stupid. What'd you say? He's stupid, lying, and out of touch. Or out of touch. I'd say he's stupid and out of touch. And maybe lying too, because who does like to write a? Come on, dude.
Yeah, especially wealthy people. Wealthy individuals do not like to part with their money. That's one of the ways they got really wealthy, is by being smart with their money. And to give the government more money than you absolutely legally have to, again, you're in saying that you appreciate that and you love it. Again, you're lying, you're stupid, you're out of touch.
Yes. And furthermore, you are intellectually and morally bankrupt if you're just like, you know what? I wish I could write a $300 million check to the federal government so they can just take care of all the problems that are out there instead of me taking any personal responsibility for anything going on out there vis-a-vis the hurricanes. Okay? Like, go to your local DMV, Mark Cuban, and see how government efficiency works. And or take a look at Afghanistan. Take a look at anything the government does. Josh said it last week. The only thing the government does is take your money and break things, right? It doesn't do anything efficiently. So that lets Mark Cuban off the hook. Well, I wrote my check for $200 million. Part of that went to FEMA for the disaster recovery effort. Meanwhile, people like Elon Musk and Tim Kennedy and the Cajun Navy and stuff, they're volunteering their own time and money to go down and help. Hey, Mark Cuban, if you really wish you would have, wrote a check for 300 instead of 200, why don't you donate $100 million to hurricane relief in North Carolina? How about that? But no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to abdicate my own responsibility and just put it on the government. It's just easier to write a check. That way I feel better about myself. Man, and
he curries favor with the government.
Yeah. Ugh.
And he's just not that smart. I mean, I think I've seen several of his posts get ratioed. And hey, just because you're a billionaire doesn't mean you're smart, right? But I watched him on Shark Tank, and he's pretty entertaining. He's got some good points and stuff. But watching his banter back and forth on X, like, he's just not overly a smart dude, or he's just going nuts. He's just going crazy. Like Josh said, he's just becoming unhinged. What else is unhinged? I was just reading this. So did you hear that there are 3,000 North Koreans heading over to Russia to fight in the Russian army against or in Ukraine?
That's pretty stupid.
I got to see the turnout of that. I mean, that's got to be one. I mean, why would you ever do that? But two, like, in theory, our intelligence agencies, right? Like, I would want to see this. Like, I got to see what their capability is.
Oh, it's going to be horrible.
Morale is. They're going to be. That's what you expect.
Yeah, because they haven't had.
But I want to see it.
They haven't had any sort of combat action at all since 1958 or whatever it was. It's like, how, dude. I mean, that's a horrible decision on the Russians' part. Just on the face of it, I'll think about it more. But on the face of it, that's going to be a logistics pull. It's going to be horrible. I mean, maybe cannon fodder, best case scenario. But it is geopolitically, it is a move. I mean, I guess you could say that, you're creeping toward World War III here. Now you've got North Korea involved.
But if you're North Korea, why do you do that? Like, do you really want to expose your vulnerabilities? You know,
Okay. So as you know, your uncle is making some. He's rattling those sabers right now. He's making big noise in North Korea, and every year, as you know, every year when they make big noise, when he starts making big noise, that means it was a shitty harvest. It was a really bad harvest, and they're going to need help. That's usually when they start really. They're blowing up bridges along the DMC and stuff. I mean, it's getting kind of crazy in North Korea. So this is a gesture to the Russians for more relief this winter, because apparently it's going to be pretty rough in North Korea.
You know what? If they would just do more to combat climate change, they would have a better harvest.
Speaking of which, North Korea has something that doesn't have something that Josh hates. And I'm sorry, Roger, do you want to say more on North Korea in that? Because I was going to.
No, that's good.
Okay.
I'm good.
North Korea is lacking in something that Josh hates. So Josh would be happy with certain aspects of living in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and that is obese people. There are very, very, very few obese people in North Korea. Their leader happens to be one. I'm sure there are some party members that are too. But Josh, you promised that on the next podcast, you were going to go off on obese people. So
we should have recorded right then.
Started with the plane seats.
Yeah, dude. All right, look. I'm going to say this. You have medical conditions, stuff like that. I get it. Right? I get that. But I should not have to pay for a full seat on an airplane and only get to use 50 to 75% of it because you use 125%. You use 100% of your seat and 25% of mine. Then you should reimburse me for 25% of my ticket or 50% of my ticket. When there is a noticeable shift in me, when I have to scoot my ass all the way to, the side of your seat and I have to lean away from you to sit in my seat, that's crap. That's absolutely, dude. And so I flew recently, had multiple legs, and every single flight, every single one, I wound up with somebody sitting next to me that took up some of my seat. And to the point to where all the individuals, every single one of them had to have seatbelt extenders. Every single one of them had to ask for a seatbelt extender. And I'm just like, are you really? Are you serious? Again, I get if you got a medical condition. I get it. I'm gonna put you on the prayer list. But I promise you, not all of you did, especially when you asked for, can I get a Coke? Yeah, give me all them snacks, all the snacks, and let me shove those down my guy. Like, it drives me nuts. One, you drive up healthcare costs. That's why we pay so much in healthcare, is because you've decided that you don't care about your body. Heart disease, number one killer. All right, you're contributing to it. Two, you actually put off more BTUs and body heat. So guess what? You are contributing to climate change. It costs more gas for you to put in your car to carry your ass around. So you're burning more gas than I am. So you're contributing, but again, I'm paying the same amount of gas tax that you are, even though you're using more. It's crap. It's absolute crap. They should make an airline to where if you spill over into the seat next to you, you've got to pay a fine right there on the spot, and you have to sit in a different section of the airplane that's designed that's designed for you. We should have a section of the airplane that's, hey, this is for people who are not obese, and then you have a section of the airplane those for people who are obese, and you have to spread it out, right? Because the weight and balance of the aircraft is important. But dude, I'm telling you, I was when that happened, and I was texting y'all, I was incensed. I'll calm down a little bit since then, but I'm incensed.
I'm done being sensitive about this. Maybe we have some listeners who are overweight But I don't know if we have any that are trending toward obese. That's nice, Roger. That's really nice. I don't know if we have any that are trending toward obese. So I'm not going to be all like touchy feely. I'm afraid I'm going to hurt your feelings, man. If you are overweight and it's affecting you and trending toward obese, do something about it. Period. So I'm not going to apologize to anyone out there who may be a little, well, Luke and Josh are being mean because I'm fat. Well, lose some weight, dude. The three of us go after each other relentlessly, and it's a pride deal. It's like, oh, dude, it's some people, whatever. It just, we go after each other relentlessly. We fat shame each other, and it does motivate. There is that sense of motivation because we're holding each other accountable, right? So, Josh, I feel you, and I'm sitting here talking. I'm sitting here thinking, what could Josh do? What could I do in that situation that might make myself, number one, feel a little bit better because it's all about me, but number two, to help my fellow man. And maybe we should consider doing something along the lines of, if you find yourself sitting next to somebody fat, why don't you have like some brochures at the ready, or like little cards at the ready to sneak into their pocket when they're asleep, or sneak into their little carry-on or something. And it's like, Manjaro, the GLP-1 advertisement, or an advertisement for a gym, like a 24-hour fitness, just slip that in their stuff to where they find it later and like, where'd this come from? Or better yet, like have like a little care package at the ready, maybe catch them at the baggage claim or as you get off the airline, like just a bag or something. Say, hey, look, thanks for being nice on the flight. I do this sometimes when I spot somebody, and they open it up and at the top, there's some Cheetos, right? You're like, oh, this is nice. So then they dig into it and then they find their Manjaro brochures and their, weight loss clinic brochure and a gym membership and like maybe some health food in there. I don't know. I might actually start doing that, dude, because I get incensed the same as you. It's like, I'm not just paying for transportation. I'm paying for a level of comfort when I get on an airplane, So yeah, it's just not right. So I'm thinking, man, maybe I'll go to a doctor's office or something and pick up some of those brochures, some of those advertisement stuff.
So let me ask you a question.
Put some C3 stickers in there too.
No, don't.
No, what you do is you put it on the back of the C3 sticker. You put like, weightwatchers.com or whatever. So how many of those donuts did you eat that we sent you?
0. That was funny.
You ate 0 donuts, like even the cream filled, like
no,
dude, I put a Boston cream filled.
First of all,
jelly donut.
I'm not a filled donut fan. Number one. Number two, I had to get those out of the house as soon as possible. The other day, Roger, they went on trips and they were talking, man, all I've been doing is eating and drinking, and I just feel like a horrible piece of crap. And I was like, that's nice, man. I worked out like twice and I've lost X amount. So Roger, I get a text early in the morning. It's from Uber Eats, and I'm like, delete. I thought this is junk, because I'm getting so much political junk mail. I'm like, oh, I'm getting.
I forgot I put your number in there.
Yeah. So then, the doorbell rings. It's like 9 a.m. The doorbell rings. I'm like, what the fuck? And then it just clicked. I was like, this guy, and I went straight to the door, and it's this guy, and he just hands me a dozen donuts, Dunkin' Donuts. And I'm like, so I can't look. The temptation to eat donuts is not because I don't want to eat them, not because it's going to make me fat. It's not that. It's because I feel like I feel horrible after it. Usually, if I eat one, I'm going to eat 2, right? And usually, I'll leave it at about 2, and I just feel just garbage. You just feel like you're dragging. It just don't feel right. So it's like, if I leave these in here, I'm going to eat one. So they're building a house across the street, and these dudes are framing the house. And they're straight up like, these guys are craftsmen and they're good. And I just like, you know what? I picked up those dozen donuts, walked them across the street, practiced my Spanish a little bit. It's like, this is for you guys. They're like, what? I was like, yeah, take them. Like, oh, thank you. Thank you. Like, yeah, enjoy.
See, there was some strategery involved there, because as Josh and I were shoveling, spoonfuls of gluttonous material down our gullets, because we're all going to get together, over the Christmas holidays, and we're going to have a little Christmas party or whatever. And we don't want to be the fat bastards, right? We don't want to be the fattest bastards. It's good to be number 2 or whatever. You can't be the fattest guy. So one of the things that Josh and I came up with was, well, hey, if we plump up Luke, we don't have to lose as much weight. So if like we can put
That's
another
right.
5 or 6 pounds on him, that's like what, 3 or 4 pounds that I don't have to lose.
So my weight loss odyssey right now is I was trying to drop some weight. I was trying to get down to under 200 pounds to do this ultra. And I'll explain to you. Josh already knows. He's probably told you, but I can't. I'm not going to be able to do the ultra. The chances of me doing it are like maybe 1%. So I'm going to stay registered to do it, but I probably won't be able to do it. Too much stuff going on. So, but before that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna lay off the lifting weights. I'm gonna just do cardio, mainly just walk and toughen my feet up. You know, do the 3, 12, 20 thing. You know, stuff like that. You know, let's shed some of this weight. And I've lost a lot of muscle, and it was a real shot. Well, I'll tell you that in a second. But I lost a lot of muscle in a relatively short amount of time, about a month and a half, about 20 pounds. Some of that's fat, but predominantly muscle. And it's like, if y'all know me well, it's like I like to be big like Schwarzenegger. You know, it's deep seated in my mind from watching Predator and Rocky IV back in the day. So you know, there's a little hit to my ego there, and then I find out I'm not doing the ultra, and I'm like, damn it. Well, I'll get back in the gym, start lifting weights. So I went to this week. I've been hitting the gym, dude. It's pathetic how weak I've become compared to what I was just 2 months ago. So I've lost all that weight. Now I'm on the road back, and there's this guy works at the gym. I talk. He's nice kid. And I went up to him. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" You know, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm back on the weights." And he goes, "Yeah, I was gonna say, Ben, have you lost a little size?" And I was like, "Dude, you didn't have to say that. You know, that's kind of cool." You know? So yeah,
That's hilarious.
it's kind of it's weird. And guys, I know that you see it too. It's like Robert Downey Jr. said, "You work out for 6 months to look good for 6 minutes." And then it all goes away. It just goes away so fast. The strength is what is absolutely mind-boggling to me, because I'm pushing around some weight, and I'm just like, dude, 2 months ago I was repping this out 30 times. I barely got 10. I like, wow. Do you really get that weak that fast at 51? I mean, good Lord.
But you were pushing some pretty big. I mean, you were pushing some pretty good weight there too. I mean,
yeah, I
you know,
was. I was,
that's
but
more than what I was pushing.
but now it's like, I'm in shape to walk about 50 miles, but you know, rep out some weight, not so much. Yeah, man.
I'm starting on Monday.
Yeah.
Starting on Monday.
It's a continuous.
I'm on,
How's your fast going, Josh?
So it's terrible. I don't know what it is. So I'm on day 2. So I'm gonna be able to, you know, I'll eat dinner tomorrow night because, like I said, you know, dude, I came back and before this quick trip, like everybody knows, I was in Talladega for the race, for like 3-4 days, and so it's been like well over a week of just eating like an asshole. And I was like, I came back and I was like, you know what? I was like, I've got to hit a hard reset because, I'm doing the ultra, and I've been off and on with trying to gear up for it for the last month or two. Just with travel and stuff, it's hard. And it's hard, and it's an excuse. It's an excuse, I know, but it's harder to do it when you're traveling. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hard reset. Because this has worked well for me in the past. I was like, I'm going to hard reset. So, basically the dinner I had, let's see, Monday night, in an airport, that was the last thing I've had to eat. So I'll be able to eat dinner tomorrow night. And so, but I don't know what it is, but so, I've done, this is my third time doing this, the 72-hour fast. The first 2 times, the second day was the worst, but it was the morning of the second day. And then as I got on into the afternoon and evening, like it didn't, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of hungry, but not terrible. But the second day morning was the worst. I don't know what it is, but dude, like right now, I'd eat the ass out of a dead skunk. I mean, it is like, stomach, like, I mean, actually almost like, not like cramps or pains, but I mean, it's painful, in a sense. And it wasn't like this the first 2 times. So I don't know what's different. But after this, like, until the ultra, I'm gonna stay away from, processed foods, as much as I can. Of course, I'm getting ready to travel again for 2 weeks. So but luckily, I'm headed, there's plenty of fish seafood. So I'm probably going to stick primarily to that. Stay away from fried food. Stay away from sweet treats, and try and stick mostly to basically like fish, rice, and vegetables
You know what
as
it
much as
is, right?
possible.
It's because your
What?
baseline over like the last 2 weeks has probably been like 4,000 calories a day. So when you go from 4,000 calories a day to like the glass of water, and dude, I didn't put two and two together. Like Luke's shooting pictures of ribs that his wife cooked and this and that, and and I'm
Yeah,
like,
he's
oh
being an
yeah, I'm gonna
asshole.
eat. I didn't even think about it. And then Josh comes back, he's like, man, this water is good.
Yeah, that's why he's exactly what I was doing. I ate some leftover butter chicken and naan today. Oh man, it's so good. I'm just like rubbing that. I should have taken a picture of it.
Yeah.
It's like, man, this is so good. And then
Yep.
Roger, you said this is
Oh.
what I'm having. It sounded pretty tasty too. And Josh is, I'm like, that's awesome.
I was actually jealous about the naan. Is I wouldn't even think about Josh. I was like, oh man, he's fasting or whatever. So you don't do anything
Yeah,
except
man.
for water. Like, are you doing coffee and anything else, or just
Yeah,
water?
coffee. Yeah, you can do coffee. Coffee, you can do coffee with no creamer. And I don't drink creamer in my coffee anyway, by and large. I will every once in a while. I'll hot foam some and throw it in there.
Well, I asked you
But
about
so and you
MCT oil. I asked you about oils.
could do MCT oil. Yeah, you could do an MCT oil. I don't have any. I mean, I could go
It's
to the store and get
just
some.
coconut oil, man. It's good in a coffee, man.
Yeah. You could do that, and then you can do green tea, like with no honey, or nothing in it, just straight green tea. You can do that. And a friend of mine did a 12-day fast. And like obviously that one
Gandhi?
was his doctor monitored it, and everything, but he did a 12-day fast to reset, and he had some other health concerns, but dude, after that, man, I think he dropped 20 pounds in that
How
12-day
do you go
fast. I mean,
12
granted,
days?
well, I mean, you do it. He's doing, his doctor was giving, I think there were some vitamin supplements involved, and water in his, like he went into the doctor after like day 4, he went into the doctor like every other day, for like just a quick 30-minute, okay, here, okay, here. But yeah, dude, he went 12 days, 12-day fast. It was absolutely insane. So yeah, it's kind of like, last night for dinner and then tonight for dinner, sit down with the family for dinner, and everybody's like, I don't want to eat in front of you, Dad. Like, I don't want to eat in front of you. I feel bad
I
for you.
would.
It's like, no, dude, it's yeah, exactly. You two guys were, it was like texting pictures of food and stuff. But I was like, yeah, hey man, this is my choice. Like, I'm not, this is, it's not that I can't do it. I can. I'm choosing to. So
I'm
they're
having
like, okay, of course, yeah, they had pizza tonight for dinner, and it
Ugh.
smelled so good. I was like, I could eat an entire one of those things right now by myself.
I'm having tacos tonight.
I love it. That's good, man. You should.
So when
I
you
bet
come
they're gonna
off
be
the
amazing.
fast, how do you break your fast? Like, what do you eat to break your fast?
So they tell you to. So the last 2 times I did it, and they say you should just break it with bone broth, right? One of those little, like a cup of, whatever, a bowl of bone broth. Tomorrow night I'm probably gonna break my fast with a steak and some asparagus. I'm just
And
so
a Monte
effing
Cristo
hungry.
sandwich.
Yeah, and a Monte Cristo sandwich. Yeah, I'll have meat and veggies tomorrow night for dinner. So
Dude,
I'm
whoever
not gonna break it with bone broth and then wait an hour, because they were like, hey, wait a couple hours after you eat the bone broth to eat a meal, to let your system kind of reset. But nah, dude, I'm just gonna go all in, which is probably gonna jack me up because my guts are all kind of jacked up anyway because this stupid ass medic in Africa, and I didn't know, right, but had me taking Cipro every day. I took Cipro every day
Jeez.
for like 2.5 months, and it just, I mean, it permanently, like, dude, I mean, I have permanent issues, and I will forever, with my intestines because of that. So
I'll never forget, dude. Right before I was about to join the army, there was a dude who had been in Desert Storm, a little bit older than me, obviously. He was still in the reserves, and he was giving me his counseling on what the army was like. He's the one that told me to lie on my SF-86. Remember that story? Yeah, great advice from this guy.
yeah,
But one thing he did say, because I was one of the fortunate ones that got to enlist as a counterintelligence special agent, right? And I was like, ooh, counterintelligence special agent, look at me. Look at the big brain on Luke, right? He's going to be a special agent. And I started bandying that about to this guy, Brian. And he's like, listen to me, man. When you go in for your dental examination and a PFC opens your mouth, just remember, he knows about as much about dentistry as you know about counterintelligence. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
So it's like that medic that gave you all that Cipro. Oh my God, dude, that's malpractice.
Dude, and
like
this
you
guy-
could sue a doctor for $30 million.
Dude, and this guy, he's not some medic who just graduated Fort Sam and showed up and was like, let me give you my IV. This guy was the equivalent to an 18 Delta.
Wow.
He was the equivalent to an 18 Delta. Right. And he was like, man, you should take that every day. Cause it was in Somalia. And he was like, you should take that every day. And so, I was like, hey man, like this guy, he's equivalent to an 18 Delta. I'm going to listen to, do what he says. And therefore, dude, after a couple of weeks, man, I was like, bro, like I don't know if I've got an infection or something, but my stomach's killing me. Like, kill me. He's like, nah, dude, you just keep taking it. Yeah, you probably got something, so you want to keep taking it. Don't take that for like 2.5 months. That guy rotated out. New dude came in, and I was like, man, dude, I think it's what I'm taking. It's killing me. And he was like, what are you taking? I was like, Cipro. He goes, do you have a stomach infection? I was like, no, but my stomach's killing. He's like, how long you been taking it? I was like, I've been taking it for probably like 11 weeks now. He goes, what? I was like, yeah, every day. I was like, so-and-so, I forget the dude's name, told me to do that. He's like, go get me all your Cipro right now. And he took it away from me. He was like, don't ever do it. Like, stop. And then he called that dude right then. He called that dude on the phone and cursed him out. Like left, right, up, down, side, like cursed him out, man. Because it did. It jacked me. It did. It permanently jacked me up.
Dude,
I have issues to this day.
Roger's got a hard stop, and next time, remind me, and I'll tell you the story about Olestra in Iraq in 2007 through 2009, and how it causes anal leakage, and how I know firsthand how Halliburton, whatever.
Oh Lord!
But Roger's got a hard stop, so I'm gonna kick it to him to close us out. Thanks y'all for listening, and we'll get to the shout outs maybe next time.
Now, I got two real quick things to throw out there. One, we had one of our listeners, unfortunately took his life last week. It's pretty heartbreaking for all of us, and we were pretty close to him. So, our hearts and prayers go out to him, his family, friends. He's probably, I don't know. I mean, we've all had, probably 3 or 4 close friends do this over the last, 5 years to a decade, and some more recent than others. But hey, man, the one thing is, God bless it, dude. Reach out to somebody. You can reach out to us. I've had folks hit me up, and believe me, I'm far from qualified to give you any advice, but I can get you to folks who can give you some good advice. But at the end of the day, you don't have to sit there by yourself and absorb the pain. Reach out to somebody, family, friends, email, text. There's just too many outlets out there to just sit there and try to suck it up on your own. Truly heartbreaking. And, especially here, cause he actually lives pretty close to me, about 15, 20 minutes away. My son had actually gone out shooting with him a couple of times. So like my family knew, him and his family. So, hearts and prayers go out to his family. And then my neighbor, Steve, and I hate to throw his name out there, man. He had to put his dog down. So it's been a it's been a bad week when you look at friends, almost family, and then you look at having to put your dog down. And I think the dog was like 16 years old, as a 16-year-old rescue or whatever. And, it was just time. But it's, you get to but like us, man, we're all pet lovers. You've seen us throw our dogs up there. My dog's trying to get into a podcast, and, he's trying to pick up some bitches, other than the 2 that are sitting here on the screen. But, it's any dog that's with you that long, becomes part of the family. So take care of each other out there. Thanks for listening. Keep your canteen cups tightly secured and full of something good.